Alright guys, so we're going to talk about the next steps in this chassis. So some of the things we are going to do are, when we put this wheel spacing in before, we just kind of made up the dimensions, but I'm going to talk about how we can go through and edit the placement of this hole to make everything better. So that uses an online tool. But the first thing we're going to do is measure how far apart they are now, because that's going to be the general distance we want, right? And so I can select those two circles, and that'll measure from center point to center point. Looks like we're 10.5 inches apart right now. Yet again, if you don't have that measure tool, I said this before, but I'll say it again, there's a little drop down right here, and you just have to check the measure box. But we saw that that's 10.5 inches. We know our pulleys are 42 tooth pulleys, because that's what we downloaded from Vex. So we can just go over here to Chrome, and this is the West Coast Products belt calculator. So it'll give us the exact distance we need based on our belt size. So we know pulley 1, 42 teeth, pulley 2, 42 teeth. Desired center, we're shooting for that 10.5 that we have. So it looks like our options are 9.5 or 10.6. We're going to go with this 10.6299 number. So I'm just going to highlight it and copy it. And that uses a 150 tooth belt. Let's head over to Vex Pro and make sure that they have those in stock, because that's important, especially if you're designing mid-build season. So HDT belts, 9mm width. We need 150 tooth. There it is, in stock, all good to go. So now that we have that dimension copied, what we can do is come back over here to Inventor, and we can open up this rail, and we can go back to this right here, where we made those holes, and we can, first thing is delete the dimension that places those, because we don't want it 3.5 anymore. We want it, or we don't want a dimension from this outside edge, we want a dimension from this hole. So I just grab a dimension up here, and we can go from this point to this point, and now that does straight on, and that's going to run parallel to that side, which isn't actually what we want. We want the true distance in between the holes, and since we know this one's lower than that one, we want to right-click, is what I did there, and then come down to Aligned. So now the dimension is going to be aligned to the two holes. You can see that the line's kind of crooked now, which is actually what you want, because it'll be point on point. And then we can just Control V or paste that dimension in there. And then we just do the same thing over here. And now we have a true dimension in there for how far it is, and now when these go to get machined, it'll be machined to the right dimension for how the belts actually are. Finish that sketch, you'll see them bump out there. We can come back to our chassis in here. We can check out and make sure everything went okay. Now you can see it's doing this weird thing where there's this gap here. I honestly don't know what that's about, but I find if you move one thing, they all snap into place for some reason. Like I said, not sure what that's about, but that's just how it works. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to slap some gussets on this to hold this thing together. Because like I said, we don't like to weld, we like to use gussets. So we're going to hop over to Vex Pro and download those. So we can go, that's a VersaFrame product, VersaFrame gussets and mounts. Perfect. You can see they have all different ones in here, all different kinds of things. But we're going to scroll down on the Vex Pro website, and they have this little thing with CAD files right here. Perfect. We're looking for a T gusset. So, VersaFrame T gusset. Download that. My SolidWorks starts trying to open. Don't want to do that. We can open this. Go to downloads, grab it, and we can just go ahead and move it into our folder for the chassis. And then we can come back to Inventor, and we can place what we should now have, a VersaFrame key gusset, just like that. Import it in just like we did the bearings and everything else. And then we can place 8 of these, right? Because you need one top and bottom. However, before I place these, to make my life easier, I'm going to put the same hole pattern that's on these on all of my parts. So it looks like when this meshes, because I'll constrain one in place just so we can see how it needs to be. But that'll go there. This needs to be flush over here, and that guy flush here. So now this is technically in place, but there's currently no holes there, and I like to go ahead and put the holes in CAD anyway. That way, if we're getting them machined by a sponsor, they can just go ahead and machine them. We don't have to worry about drilling them in-house. That makes things a lot easier for us. So yeah, let's look at what we can do here. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4 holes. So we can open this guy back up, look at the top, start a 2D sketch on top, do a point here, and we can dimension this one 1/2 inch in from both sides. And then I'm actually going to do a rectangular pattern of this point. So when I open a rectangular pattern, it automatically makes you select your geometry, so I want it to be of this point, and then direction 1, the direction I want the pattern to go in, is going to be this line, because I want my holes to be parallel to this guy. So then this is how many of them I want. I said I wanted 4 of them, and then it's actually on a 0.5 inch spacing. Okay, and now we have our 4 points there that we can make holes out of. And I come and do the same thing over here at the other end. Okay, so this is a good point. Do you see how this is over here off of the bar and not on the bar where we want it? There's this little button here that flips it and flips which direction it is. Oh boy, I accidentally hit enter. I hit extrude actually. So we're gonna have to redo that. But yeah, there's this button right here that'll flip it. And then yet again 4, 0.5 inch spacing. Now we have all of those. Finish sketch, hole. And then these holes are going to be for rivets. You can reinforce it with 1/4 inch bolts, which we did this year on our chassis, because we had some special circumstances, but generally some regular old steel rivets will do. And our size we use for rivets is 5 30-seconds, and you can do it just like that, 5 divided by 32, and that's the same thing. It's whatever that decimal works out to be. So now we have those holes. We can go into our chassis and we can look and see if we did them right and they line up. Look at that, they line up perfectly with that gusset that's already constrained. And you can see we have them all around, both pieces. Beautiful. The next thing we need to do, because I don't actually remember, is we need to measure how far in this is so we can make the holes on this. So from that surface to, I like to measure to the center hole. Actually, you know what? The easier way to do it is to measure to the outside hole, not the center hole. And that is 2.75 inches. So we can open this guy up. Let's start a 2D sketch on the side. Point here. From here to here. Oh boy. Keep messing up and hitting the wrong button on my mouse and I have it set to extrude. See, these programmable buttons can get you sometimes if you're randomly clicking them without meaning to. Okay, and then we just do another rectangle pattern. This guy, on that axis. Flip the dimension, 5. I don't actually remember how many everything I need. So I can just pop over here and look 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect, and that is under front back. So we'll need 7 of them. Alright. Another rectangular pattern here. Direction. Boom. 0.5 inches. 7 of them. Okay. Finish sketch. Hole. 30 seconds. Alright, pre-filled. Looks good. Come back to chassis. Make sure that all lines up. And then it's just as simple as constraining these gussets in, just like we have done everything else. And even though I could constrain to the hole, I find it easier to constrain flush to an edge first, and then I can make the holes rather than trying to line up holes. Like, you see, I clicked the wrong hole because there's so many of them. That's what makes it challenging, I guess you could say. Now we got it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. I'll finish constraining these gussets, as y'all should as well, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.